And welcome to episode 513 of Cinematary. I'm your host, Zach Dennis, and I'm here with
Michael O'Malley.
And Alison Swafford.
today's episode. We will be finishing off our summer Patreon picks series with Perfect Days from 2023.
Is it 23?
I think that's right.
Whatever.
One of those years.
It could have come out any year. It is a term. It
2023.
did come out in 2023. Yeah.
2023. Thank you to Cam, our longtime patron, for picking this one. This was a good Cinematary favorite when it came out. But before that, we'll be talking about movies we saw this week. Grace is not here today, but I will say that following, we have this series ending this week, and then we will be in TIFF. We will be at Toronto, and we'll have like a Toronto recap and everything from there. Be sure to follow all the socials and everything. We're gonna be posting about that. But Grace has what's the name that we've landed on for her series?
I think it is called Sangre du Cinema. Is that where? No, it's Cinema Sangre. Cinema Sangre.
Cinema Sangre.
Yeah.
Her vampire series is gonna be, I think October is what we're looking at. In that range.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it probably won't be out in October, right? Unless we're gonna start releasing week by week again.
No, but I think it's important that we bottle October to distribute over the following months.
You'll get October, like a little extra October later. Probably in like 2027.
Our October is in the winter. You know, we like to scare you at any point in time. But that'll be what's coming up next from Cinematary. So yeah, but we're excited about Toronto. Year number 9 for the podcast. So
Hell yeah.
let's go.
Always.
All right, well, let's kick off with the blockbuster people are talking about. I won't say everybody's talking about, because you have Spider-Man and the Odyssey still out there. But people are still talking about this, and that's
the people who know what's up are talking about this.
Tell us about the End of Oak Street.
The End of Oak Street. This is a new movie by David Robert Mitchell, who has been pretty quiet as of late. I think some people theorize his last movie was Under the Silver Lake,
which was like, wasn't that 2018 or 19, something like that? It's been a while.
Hold on, I got you.
I think he's been in
Tracking at 2018, so it has been almost 10 years since this man has made a movie. He of course
deserves director jail.
Yeah, I think the prevailing theory is that Under the Silver Lake performed so poorly at the time that he has been in director jail, and I think it was like seen by some people as like this really crackpot, harebrained, like bad idea for a movie. I really like Under the Silver Lake. I really liked it when it came out, and it has only grown in my estimation since.
Really? I need to rewatch it. I remember liking it.
I also rewatched it. I haven't watched it since probably 2019, I think.
I think a major reason why people did not enjoy Under the Silver Lake is because, like, the thing that it's doing is definitely an acquired taste, but the thing that it's doing is just Thomas Pynchon. It is just like a Thomas
But
Pynchon
it's like
story that is
when
not really
Thomas Pynchon was interested in Nintendo and on
it's like Thomas Pynchon not interested in Nintendo. He does reference Pokemon in Bleeding Edge.
That's all you need.
But anyways, he has not been able to make a movie for a long time. He is apparently working on an It Follows follow-up that, you know, is dubiously titled They Follow.
Dubiously, no doubts in this quarter. I love that title.
No, it should be. Did he not like think of It Still Follows or
Still Follows?
I think They Follow is like it's
follow.
Yeah, all right.
To It Who Follows. But End of Oak Street, in a way, feels like he's doing a studio picture, you know, like he's making a movie for the studios or for the masses or whatever. I actually don't know what studio put this thing.
He's still like produced and wrote and directed. It's still like a personal project.
This came out. This is a Warner Brothers movie. It is also a collaboration with J.J. Abrams, who produced it. So, like, Mr. Blockbuster for the past, decade or so, I would say, like in like the Star Wars world anyway. Um, and it is like very broad, palatable entertainment. But it's so well done. It is so well done. This is a dinosaur movie. It's like a Steven Spielberg style, like retro, like family thriller sort of thing. Wherein like suburban family living in 1982, I believe, gets just kind of inexplicably. I love that they don't explain how
They
this
do.
happened.
There's a Carl Sagan quote to explain it.
There's the Carl Sagan quote to explain the fact that wormholes exist,
It's
but
so
it
funny.
doesn't explain why this happened.
They act like Carl Sagan's Cosmos was like cutting edge scientific research that explains this like phenomenon.
What has happened, of course, is that their neighborhood has been wormholed into a prehistoric dinosaur era. And meanwhile, like that portion of the earth, like this orb that encloses their neighborhood, um, like that has now been replaced with a similarly sized plot of land from the dinosaur era as well. There's like an interesting
They just did the switcheroo from 100 million years ago.
and like this movie takes very seriously the idea that if humans were anywhere near dinosaurs, dinosaurs would fuck them up. Like dinosaurs would have no empathy for the humans, and humans would not stand a chance against the dinosaurs, right? Like the kinds of um the types of violence visited upon humans in this movie is like hilarious, I think. Like the first is it the first one that we see where like a velociraptor just like jumps and like swallows like the top half of somebody.
Yeah.
Um,
The raptors especially are brutal in this movie. Also, I thought for sure coming out of this movie that this was like an R-rated movie. It is PG-13. This is a shockingly violent PG-13 movie.
This is the kind of movie that would traumatize children in like the best way. Like they would remember it the rest of their life and like become a lifelong fan of horror movies.
You're a lifelong enemy of horror movies. Depends
Or
on
one
how
that-
well they recover.
But like dinosaur kids everywhere, like this, they didn't even see this coming. Also, one thing that's kind of cool is that it takes seriously the feather dinosaur theory, and so we see a very different type of screen dinosaur than I have ever seen in any other movie, really. And I think that they're scarier for the fact that they look unfamiliar to me. Um, but fantastic movie, like such a great time at dumb movies. Great. I did not eat popcorn during this movie, but I wish I would have. It's
Oh,
like
yeah.
a plus popcorn film. I think there's stuff that we could get into with regards to like character and theme. I think that it is a very well written movie as well, and very well acted, especially by Anne Hathaway. I think she's
She's so
like
good.
far and away the standout here. But those are my thoughts about it. I thought it ruled. What do you think, Michael?
Oh yeah, I was sitting next to you.
Yeah.
And guffawing
know, I'm just
with
cheating for that.
no, I know I'm saying for the listeners who presumably weren't in our theater.
That's
But I will say like the person sitting next to me was like into it. She was like gasping and like putting her eyes up and
yeah.
putting her hands up to her eyes and things like that. Which was great. But I thought aside from all the things that you said, which were good, this movie is very funny. And it has like a really mean it's like a Joe Dante movie in the sense of like it has a really like dark like mean streak like running through it.
Right.
Like there's this one of the kids has a bow and arrow that he's
You
got
really think this is gonna pay off at some point?
yeah, he's got this bow and arrow that he starts riding around with because before the plot of the movie begins, he like broke some kid's arm in the neighborhood, and so his older brother's out to like beat the shit out of him. So he's like, I gotta carry around this bow and arrow to protect myself. And so then they get transported to the dinosaur times, and he's like, oh my god, I gotta use my bow and arrow on the dinosaurs. and he like misses every time. Like there's not a shot in the movie. Well, I think there's one shot with the worm. Like he hits the worm, and that's like the one like payoff. But everything
Not that's particularly difficult shot.
no, but every other shot, like his first of all, it looks so dinky. Like the arrow just like clatters off to the side every time he's used it, and then he misses most of the time. And there's just stuff like that throughout the movie where it's like just this kind of hilariously mean, like, oh, you think like this is about to be a badass moment, and nope. There's this other amazing moment that I won't spoil, but it involves Ewan McGregor and a sledgehammer.
Oh my
And
god. Yeah.
it is like
That shit
another
was
like hilarious
awesome.
subversion of you think that this is gonna be badass, and then it just ends up being the most pathetic, like gruesome thing ever.
There is excellent melee combat between humans and dinosaurs that is all filmed in a way that looks like a really well done action movie where like they learned the choreography and we're just doing this in one shot, right? Of course they're fighting CGI creations, but like it feels really thrilling to kind of like be in the moment with those characters. Um I think like that's what the movie does better than anything else maybe is just like capturing this feeling of sheer terror that these people feel. Um,
Yeah, and David Robert Mitchell is, like, shooting the heck out of this movie, like, he's
Absolutely. Oh
doing,
my
like, split diopter shots everywhere, like, there's, like, deep focus and all this stuff, even on, like, some just regular like, there's a scene early in the movie where their house gets, transported to the dinosaur times, and they lose power
Mhm.
water and stuff like that, so they're just sitting around in their living room with, like, candles just talking. And
Right.
like the way that he films the talking is like there's a person in the foreground saying something, and you see in the background like the other shot, it's being
Mhm.
like split, like they're like reacting to it, and it keeps cutting to different family members with the exact same setup
Right.
visually. And then there's like
I've seen
like
critics like very much take against that, by the way, but I thought it
oh,
was
that's
really
good.
cool. Yeah.
Also, it looks distinctive. That's one of the things
Yeah.
I was as we were walking out of the movie, Allison, I was idly mentioning like when was the last good dinosaur movie? And I mean, certainly there's not been a better dinosaur movie than Jurassic Park, but I'm not sure if there's been like that many like just good dinosaur movies since Jurassic Park. And one of the
Yeah.
things is
I think this is easily the best dinosaur movie since Jurassic Park.
Steven
Yeah.
Spielberg is like a everything he's doing is like just technological like wizardry, just like pure
Mhm.
like joy of filmmaking, right? And I think that
Yeah.
like David Robert Mitchell brings that to this movie where it's just kind of like the thrill of using these toys at his disposal that I honestly don't see in a lot of like
Mhm.
action movies. And there's just, like, really fun, like, inventive stagings of it. Like, in Jurassic Park, there's, like, the really iconic stuff with, like, the mirror with, like, the objects in the mirror are closer than they appear, and
Mhm.
the cup vibrating with the
Right.
footsteps and stuff like that. And this movie tries to do some of that stuff too, where there's a long buildup where you don't really see anything but little glimpses of dinosaurs.
Right.
And
Yeah, this
a
has a
lot
great sense of don't show the monster. Even that,
Yeah.
like, you walk in knowing what the monster is, there's not, like, a sense of suspense to that, but it still adds to the feeling of suspense in the experience of watching the movie.
Yeah, like, the
The way
movie
that they
continually finds creative ways to hide the monster from you.
Mhm.
My favorite is Ewan McGregor is running along one side of the fence, and there's a
Yeah,
dinosaur on the other side of the fence, but all you see are the tops of the objects that the dinosaur keeps running into,
right.
as he's running along the fence.
I can imagine that being like a comic strip or something,
Right.
you know? This
Yeah,
is very, there was a shot list for this movie. Uh,
for sure.
yeah,
Uh, Very good. There's also a really good, like, long, like, kinda one take where they're, like, running down the street,
absolutely.
where the dinosaur's not hidden, it's, like, in full view, but it's very thrilling.
'Cause, like, they are hidden for such a long time that, like, once you see, like, mini dinosaurs, like, running through the street, you're like, "Oh, fuck. These people do not stand a chance."
Well, and there's so many shots too where people are, like, our main characters are walking, and you can see what's happening in the background in someone else's
And they
backyard where
just
they're
see
just
it.
getting
Yeah.
ripped to pieces by a dinosaur. It's good. It's good.
Yeah,
It's
fucking
it's
good movie.
yeah, people should go see it, I think it was made fairly cheaply for the kind of movie this is, like, it was, like, 80 or 90 million or something, and I don't think it's made that back yet. I really hope it's not like one of these, like, well, we gave him, all this money to make a dinosaur movie that was cool, and then it didn't
I
perform.
wonder if we have box office numbers on it. Let me see.
It's just opening weekend, right? It's only been out 1
I
week.
thought the last weekend was opening weekend, so we should have data from the first weekend, right?
I think that's what I mean. Like, that's the only weekend that we've had. It's just this one. But anyway, I hope people go see it.
It has so far made $21 million. Let's see it, the budget. Ooh. Sorry.
This is compelling audio.
This is really compelling audio. People, I hope people enjoy the clacking. I love clacking noises. Budget was $80 to $92 million.
Yeah.
The Wikipedia list the box office is $58 million.
Oh. People gotta go see this. They
gotta.
It has the feeling of something that, I don't know, maybe could be a word of mouth hit. I feel like when in the theater I was in, people seem to be enjoying it.
Absolutely.
And I feel like it's an easy movie to enjoy if your life isn't ruined by split diopter shots. So I don't know.
It's the one thing that holds me back in life.
You know how like there's that website like does the dog die? Oh, speaking of which, this is a great dog in this movie.
This is an amazing dog. Right? I really thought the dog was a goner for quite a while.
Oh my god! Yeah, there's so many.
But they deploy your fear of the dog dying in incredible ways in this movie.
But anyway, they got to make another website called "Is the Diopter Split?" Anyway,
well, End of Oak Street, it's in theaters. Go see it, I guess.
Absolutely.
Say no to the Odyssey and Spider-Man and go see End of Oak Street.
Excellent blockbuster. Yeah.
On the whole different spectrum, do y'all want to talk about I Want Your Sex?
Oof. I suppose. What, Michael? Why don't you intro this one?
oh god,
Really, because it's tough to. I do like it, but
I also like this movie. But okay, so this is Greg Araki, Cinematary Legacy.
yeah, we've done a series on the man.
We did a series. I believe I've seen most of his movies by this point.
I've seen them all except White Bird in a Blizzard.
You've seen like the really early, like the pre, I can't remember the first.
I mean, Living End is the first one I've seen.
Oh,
Living
okay,
End
there's a
is
couple
like
before
the
Living End that are
trilogy.
like they're like micro budget. Like I don't know if they're student films or what. Anyway, that's not important. This is his new movie. It is not like The Living End. It is probably more in terms of Greg Araki movies, like on the like splendor end of the spectrum in terms of like just kind of comedic, kind of broadly frothy entertainment. But the plot is kind of a doozy. So Cooper Hoffman is like a young, starving 20-something who needs a job desperately. And so he gets a job working for Olivia Wilde, who is this like successful like artist, like, capital A, like modern artist. And it seems that his job is exclusively chewing gum so that he can put it on the sculpture that is a vagina in the shape of gum. Or no, excuse me, that is gum in the shape of a vagina.
Yeah.
And but the job takes a twist when like she invites him into her office and basically is like, I see you looking at me. Are you gonna be weird if we sleep together? And he's like, no, of course I wouldn't be weird. And so they begin to have like an affair that from the very beginning of the movie we know goes horribly wrong because the opening shot of the movie is kind of like a you're probably wondering how I got here sort of thing, with Cooper Hoffman. The movie opens with Cooper Hoffman seeing her body in a pool and he's bleeding and all that. And then he goes to the police in his Johnny Knoxville and Margaret.
He's also wearing like a French maid outfit.
French maid lingerie. Yeah. So he goes and Johnny Knoxville and Margaret Cho are the police who interrogate him and are like, what happened here? And then the rest of the movie unfolds with the premise that I just mentioned as he tells this to the cops.
Though we should emphasize Johnny Knoxville and Margaret Cho
who have a nothing role, really. These could have
They really don't
been
have anything to do. Yeah.
these could have been nobodies. He probably could have cut the budget for the movie by a couple million by not casting these people. It's really funny. Like Johnny Knoxville is entirely straight. Like
Right.
there is nothing Johnny Knoxville about this performance.
Nobody kicks him in the balls. He's just,
No.
He's
No.
literally sitting in a chair the whole movie.
Yeah, entire movie, one care. Yeah.
So anyway, it kind of goes from there. He, has a few people he meets along the way, such as a colleague or a coworker, I guess, for Olivia Wilde, because she has this whole like Andy Warhol type like factory that
Mhm.
makes her art, and that guy's gay and is kind of like this like sexual libertine, whereas like uh Cooper Hoffman is kind of like I don't know if repressed sexually is the right word, but he is dating Charlie
I would
XCX,
say he is frustrated
who
sexually.
is frustrated sexually because Charlie
Yeah.
XCX has no interest in him. She is in medical school and is just studying all the time, which is kind of a hilarious premise. Like it kind of reminds me of the Testament of Anne Lee, where it's like, what if you were married to this like one of the most beautiful women and they just had
Yeah.
no sexual interest in you? And so like his frustration sexually, he gets to kind of let out with his quid pro quo, like explicitly quid pro quo relationship with his boss, Olivia Wilde, um, who has a lot of opinions about like how young people these days are too prudish and repressed and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So she
He has a bit of a boomer rant about
a
that.
bit of a boomerang that I guess like Greg Araki has been echoing in the press for this movie. I don't know. I've not paid
Kind of.
attention.
He kind of have. I've run across clips of this on Instagram, and he's definitely like cognizant of the fact that like there is still like danger in the world of sex, and like the people can make bad decisions and have bad experiences, but he like kind of frames his own bad experiences as things that he like ultimately grew from,
Yeah.
and like sexual uh adventurousness is like ultimately a virtue. It is seems to be like what he's kind of proposing this movie is about.
Yeah, it's
So
kind
kind
of
of
like
like
an Alex
agreeing with that.
Garland. It's kind of like an Alex Garland like Civil War situation where like you watch the text of the movie and you're like, wow, look at all these interesting ambiguities. And then the director says something that potentially kind of flattens the interpretation of it. Cause like one of the
Yeah,
things that I thought is interesting about the movie, and Allison, maybe you have thoughts on this, but
for sure. Yeah.
uh it has this kind of like stance at the beginning of the movie that's kind of like reactionary, where Olivia Wilde is like making like, oh, the woke police and like
Mm,
that sort of thing, oh, they make me keep my door open now, because of me too, like a roll in her
right.
eyes and all that. And like there's a bunch of stuff where the police are like, dude, was she grooming you? And Cooper Robin's like, no, no, of course not, and but
Mhm.
then the plot of the movie is that this relationship goes like, horrifically badly. Like, it's not, like, just a bad relationship, like, it is, like, shown to be, like, a very, very toxic relationship in the ways that you
Mhm.
would expect would come out of, like, sleeping with your boss. She asks you to do coercive things that you feel obligated to do because you need money.
Yeah.
She pushes boundaries of consent. She does like things that are like, inviting him to like bring others into this relationship, wherein like, that goes really horribly. And like, I don't know,
She's
like you feel
also like always wanting the relationship to be something different than what it is, you know?
right.
Uh,
And I don't know, it's just interesting to hear that Greg Araki has it seems like the closest character to his views on sex is actually Olivia Wilde, but the actual movie itself kinda shows her to be a psycho.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I
Like,
don't really know how to square that circle, but I do think it's interesting.
I think that it is possible that like either the nature of the press junket or the nature of the algorithm is kind of like flattening my view of what Greg Araki's actual perspective is. Because like I've not sat in on these Q&As. I've also like
Sure.
not watched them in full. I've watched like little 30-second snippets that have gotten passed around on Instagram. So that's partially my fault. But it's also possible that in doing a press junket for a movie, you get asked a lot of the same questions all the time, and like you kind of come up with these pat answers that
Mhm.
maybe do not, I don't know, encapsulate the full complexity of the movie. And I think that Greg Araki is a director who's shown himself to be like very interested in thematic complexity and like ambiguous situations and things like that. Um, and yeah, I do think the text of the movie, I think it's kind of a foolish, like generally kind of a foolish assumption that like when a character gives a monologue in a movie, like that perspective is the perspective of the director, especially when like that character is Olivia Wilde in this movie and does all the things that you were just talking about, Michael. And like there is kind of like a light and happy tone to the way this relationship plays out in general, but like it also is kind of unsatisfying at every turn. Like I hope this is not a spoiler. They like kind of unexpectedly get married at the end, and as soon as
Oh
they
yeah.
kiss, like she just like melts or dies or something. I forget what exactly happens there, but it's like they can't be together.
It's like
Uh,
it ends up being a dream sequence, right? Where like basically they're haunting each other. Right? Isn't that what it ends up
I,
being?
I
They
might have
like
misremembered.
they're I okay, so this is my memory. Granted, this was a couple weeks ago. So I think there is that scene of them getting married, and then she does the whole, like, she melts or whatever, and then they both, like, cut to them. It's like a split ta screen take where they both, like, jump out of bed, they're like, "Wah!" And then it turns out that he is running a podcast because that's what she suggested that he
I thought the
does.
podcast scene was earlier.
Maybe
I
I'm
could be
mixing this up,
wrong.
but I thought the
But
last scene of the movie was she wrote a book or no, sorry, he wrote a book, or did she? Boy, we're awesome at remembering this movie.
what happens in this movie?
Uh,
So you're
the
right.
end is like they both make content out of their situation is the
Right.
the
Right.
gist of it. Um,
I also think that two things can be true at the same time. I think that like Olivia Wilde's view that the younger generation is too sexually repressed, and like um would be happier people who lived fuller lives if they like allowed themselves to like push beyond like a certain level of discomfort that comes along with propositioning people for sex and like having sexual experiences. um and also she is like a very exploitative abusive person who like is kind of taking advantage of who's like using that as like a point of leverage, like a rhetorical point of leverage to take advantage of somebody in a pretty bad way here. I also think that it's possible that like Cooper Hoffman's character is being groomed and is being abused, and also he is sincere when he says that he wanted it entirely and enjoyed the experience. Like those things are possible to both happen. Um,
yeah, I think ultimately it is a movie that raises a lot of those questions. I think, to be honest, I did enjoy the movie, but I don't know that the movie is quite good enough to make it feel like a completely satisfying exploration of those complexities.
yeah,
Like, I
fair
think
enough.
there's kind of a glibness to some of the movie that makes it really entertaining, and it is very funny, like, there's some really funny
It's
parts.
very funny. Yeah.
But it also once you start getting into the thorny complexities, it's like they're there, but I don't know that, like, we're given some sort of, like, intelligent, like, thing to wrestle with other than just the fact of these things existing to begin with, It's not like
Mhm.
a movie that has an interesting or compelling take on these exactly. I don't know.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that it's not like the most serious minded movie in general. I think that it's mostly kind of a lark, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, it is. And I enjoyed the lark. It was
yeah,
fun to
it's a lot of
watch.
fun. Yeah.
Uh, it's very like poppy and like, edited very, very sharply, and it goes down really easy. Despite the potentially, upset like there's a way that you could make this movie like really like kind of nervy, like a setting movie, if you take that plot,
Mhm.
but it's not. It's, it's like a comedy, and I
Mhm.
think it works pretty well as a comedy. Um, if you're willing to take it at that.
For sure.
Well, I Want Your Sex, I think it's still in theaters a little bit, but will most likely be streaming at some point, probably pretty soon. So catch it at some point. Um, all right, Allison, do you want to talk about the Dirties?
Sure. I can talk about the
What
Dirties.
what a follow up from I Want Your Sex. Let's talk about the
Right on.
Dirties now.
Yeah, let's go from talking about like Me Too to talking about school shootings. Like just issues that like nobody has any opinions about. But anyways, The Dirties is the first feature, I believe, by Matt Johnson, who has come on my radar this year with Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie. Um, I have now, as of talking about this movie, talked about the entire filmography of Matt Johnson in like the past 4 episodes of this show because I watched Nirvana. I immediately watched, oh God, what's the other really, really big one? What was right before
Blackberry.
it on? I watched
Blackberry.
Blackberry. I watched Operation Avalanche, and now I'm watching The Dirties. So that's
I
all
watched
of them.
Tony too.
The new one's Tony, so we'll have to talk about Tony. Kind of impromptu Matt Johnson series on Cinematary with Tony coming out this weekend. But this is his first feature. It stars him as a character named Matt Johnson, as is also true in Operation Avalanche.
And Nirvana.
And Nirvana the band, the show. I forgot about that. Yeah, that's true. But this is a school shooting movie, as mentioned. And I did not necessarily know that that's where it was going. I knew that it was like a revenge story about nerds like getting revenge on some bullies by like making a documentary about them or something. But it ends up being like a guy making a recording, not to like live stream, but to like the recording later be edited into a feature film of him committing a school shooting. So that's where it's ultimately going. I hope it's not a spoiler to say that, but like that is kind of what the movie is about, right? And I like that the movie sort of gradually kind of brings you into I don't know, the understanding that that is who this guy is, right? Because I think on the front end, it is easy to find him like annoying but ultimately amusing. And like at times tasteless. Like you're seeing he's like this high school kid who really likes, a particular brand of like macho movies like Pulp Fiction and The Godfather and all the like bro canon movies. Um and makes films that are just kind of like reenacting and reappropriating parts of that. The main one that we see him working on is for a school project, which like we don't really get much of a sense of what the school project is, but uh, the places, the cinematic places that he takes this project seem in no way called for by the project. Like he shows it to his teacher, and in this incredible scene of you watching his teacher watch an early cut of this film that he has made, and the teacher at the end is like, okay, you gotta cut the swearing because it's like nonstop f bombs, like pull style thing. Um, and but like as the movie goes on, oh, I should also mention like when I say that he can be tasteless, this character in um kind of his reaching for shock value and things like that. You do watch him watching a clip of him in blackface, um, which I think if we're willing to be very generous towards the movie, um, like we are meant to be critiquing the character in that moment. We're meant to be seeing like how edginess in terms of like chasing that like I don't know extreme some sort of like extreme humor in film can like go too far easily. There's also like a little bit of commentary about like quote unquote race comedy in Nirvana the band, the show, the movie, and like we have not had a conversation about it. But Michael, I know that you've like run into some stuff in the Nirvana band show that felt like very racially iffy.
The web series. Yeah, I mean, it's just like two guys in their early 20s and the mid 2000s. What do it's kind of like I don't know that there's meant to be any commentary in there. I think it's just kind of uh, just the atmosphere of kind of what was unexamined at the time.
Yeah, and that is
Kind of,
kind of a part of what Nirvana the band the show is getting at. Like they go back in time 2008 and walk into the closest movie theater and hear the F slur shouted in like the first joke of The Hangover, right? And like everybody laughs at it thoughtlessly.
And Matt goes, "Oh, it's 2008."
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, the best joke in that movie, honestly, is so good.
um, but this movie is he's like much more grim than anything that he's done, which I think appropriately so considering the subject matter. But like the character is not playing it as grim, right? The character is this like really like hyper over the top, um, just like constantly like fomenting bits and lines and movie quotes and things like that. Um, Kind of completely oblivious to the way that he comes across to other people, the effect he has on other people. It's also a movie in the same way that No Want to Ban the Show, the movie is about friendship and about like him driving away this one like very close friend, like the only person who like actually understands him in the world, and how like him taking this project of like, oh, we're gonna get back at quote unquote the dirties, these just slightly more popular kids that don't appear to be any sort of gang or anything. We're just gonna get back at them because of the way that they've treated us, which is poor. um but he takes that project, increasingly far, to its like furthest extremity with the school shooting. Um, and yeah, we were talking on off mic before recording about like how there are so few movies about school shootings and even fewer actually good ones, right? Um, and this does feel like an actually good one to me. In that like it is presenting like the school shooter in the scenario as somebody that like nobody takes seriously until they do it, you know? And like there being warning signs, but unless you're the friend who like is being shown the blueprints and the plan, like how would anybody make the logical leap to like this is definitely going to happen and here's what I need to do about it? Um so really, kind of like, I don't know. I thought it was thought provoking and powerful and well done. While also being, I would say that it's like funny, but I would say that it's less funny than other Matt Johnson movies because I think you're supposed to find the humor or the attempts at humor grating. Um,
Mm.
movie, which I think is really interesting approach. It's also interesting that like he calls the character Matt Johnson. I've also another like little Instagram short clip of Matt Johnson being interviewed has come across my way. That was about like him talking about how in his early film career he felt like he was always making characters that were like, you know, him looking at himself in like the cruelest possible light, like him putting this like version of himself that he thought that like nobody um was like capable of accepting or loving or whatever, as like a way to create ironic distance from himself. And so like this does feel like Matt Johnson presenting like the absolute worst version of himself. Like this is what, just like the slurry of toxicity within like a certain subset of film culture could kind of like um allow a particular kind of weirdo to go. um so it is similar to Operation Avalanche in that like it is very much a movie about cinephilia. You're seeing like, walls just like covered in like layers and layers and layers of posters of movies. and you're getting the sense that this is a guy who has like let movies become his whole life to the detriment of him having an actual life for himself, that he would find um, satisfying or fulfilling, or what have you. And like he is just like filling that void with like cinematic depictions of violence to the point where like he then wants to perpetuate those acts of violence himself. So like there is that common talking point about like violent media creates violent people, like hovering around this movie. I don't think that the movie is ultimately making that argument, but it is more so like making this particular type of cinephilia for violent movies into like a symptom of a larger thing that is happening. Um, so yeah, I really liked it. I'm really excited to see Tony. The trailer for it really makes it look like a pretty ordinary kind of movie, but it is cool that he's deciding to just like tell the story of like one summer in Anthony Bourdain's life, when he was like way younger than the time period in his life that people know him for. And so it seems like there's going to be a certain looseness to that, and it also, from what I've heard, a lot of it was improvised and just kind of like caught on the fly and constructed in the edit, which
Yeah,
is
it was.
an incredible editor too. But
It's based off of probably like 2.5 chapters of Kitchen Confidential, where he describes his time in Provincetown and like the characters he came in contact with and how much of just a little shit he was like at that point in his life.
yeah,
Um, and so I feel like there's like, he describes it in the book, but there's a lot of room to like, you know, I like also it's not like we're not having like a walk hard, like,
right.
Anthony Bourdain needs to think about his life before he
Yeah.
gets food.
Yeah.
You know, I'm looking forward to it,
Yeah.
also.
Also, apparently, the way that this was pitched was like they sent him the concept and they set him up with Dominic Sessa, who people know from The Holdovers. That was like his first performance. And as soon as he met Dominic Sessa, he was like, "Yes, I'm doing this movie. Like it doesn't matter. Like I will make this work because I have this guy." And like Dominic Sessa is an amazing actor. I've only seen him in Holdovers, of course,
But
but
so good in the holdovers.
yeah,
Hope he
Zach
has
and
a
I
long and prosperous career.
absolutely. Zach and I were lucky enough to see the Holdovers premiere at TIFF, and yeah, it was like instant star status on this kid. I'm very glad that he's continuing to do stuff.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm sorry to Sam, I don't get to talk about the Hong Kong action movie. You know how I feel though, Sam. I'm just talking to the camera. You know how I feel. I don't need to talk about it. Chow Yun Fat, guns, like speaking of violence and media, watch Full Contact. We're gonna take a quick break and then we will be back. We're gonna be talking about no violence, like the most chill vibes you could think of in Perfect
Perfect day.
Days
Yeah.
after this. And we are back with part 2 of episode 513 of Cinemataries. In this part, we're concluding our Patreon pick series for the summer with 2023's Perfect Days, directed by Vim Vendors. He co-wrote it with Takuma Takasaki. It stars Koji Yakusho, who people may know from your amazing movie.
Yeah.
Um,
He won't
he is a
back
very
that man.
yeah. Uh, he has a brief role in Pulse. Works is worked with Kiyoshi Kurosawa a bunch.
He just comes
Um,
in at the very end of Pulse to be like, "Hi, I'm that
like,
guy."
hey,
Yeah, and then
you
it's
remember
over.
me
Yeah.
from Cure? This was it's in Japanese, but it's a Japan Germany little Axis Powers reunion co-production.
I'm sure they love to be referred to as that. Honestly, this is the funniest movie to come out of the Axis Power reunion.
Yeah, right. The film follows Hirayama, a public toilet cleaner in Tokyo's Shibuya ward, Through his quiet, ritualized daily routine, cassette tapes, secondhand paperbacks, and photographs of trees fill the hours around his work until small disruptions in his life let glimpses of his past and inner world slip through. It premiered in Cannes and came out and was the Oscar submission for Japan that year. Perfect Days almost didn't exist as a narrative film at all. In early 2022, vendors received an out of the blue invitation to visit Tokyo and look at some public toilets sent by the Tokyo Toilet Art Project, which had commissioned high profile architects and designers to build 17 striking public toilets across the neighborhood. The project's organizers hoped vendors might like the toilets enough to make a series of short documentaries about them. The project itself had a specific origin. The Tokyo Toilet Project was meant to be ready for the 2020 Summer Olympics. The pandemic dashed those plans. So Koji Yanai, who led the initiative, reached out to filmmakers he admired to help raise international awareness of the effort. Vendors
I
turned
love
down
that
the
this is just an elaborate PSA for the toilets.
I was under the impression that there was actually meant to be commercials originally, like to plan.
Yeah, yeah, it was like he wanted these short films to show how nice the toilets are, and at least
It
like
does
how
make
cool
me
they
want
look.
to use the toilets.
It is great.
Be in all these toilets.
Yeah, they're fantastic toilets.
I love
So
the
he turned-
ones where like you walk in and like flip a switch and it goes from transparent to solid.
That's such a cool effect.
Yeah,
yeah, we need to work on our toilet game here in America.
Absolutely.
no-
God.
we got fucking Bucky's. Come on.
Like just yet
Uh,
the other way that America is behind other OECD countries.
Yeah, we're behind in AI, we're behind in toilets. What are we gonna do? He turned down the documentary idea, but not the project. He told the organizers he couldn't make documentaries because places show their meaning more fully through fiction, pointing to his 1987 film Wings of Desire, which began as a documentary about Berlin before the fall of the wall and became something else entirely. Yanai and Takasaki settled on vendors as their director and approached him with an offer of funding, stipulating only that the film had to center on Tokyo's public toilets and their cleaners. The original concept was an omnibus of short films, but after vendors visited Japan in May 2022 to scout locations, he decided on a full-length feature instead. Fun detail. This wasn't vendors' first commission that became art house cinema. Wings of Desires was a bit of a parallel. He seems to have a pattern of turning promotional gigs into meditations on urban life.
What was Wings of Desire originally?
It was originally supposed to be a documentary about Berlin following the fall of the wall, and then became like a feature, like a film.
Crazy.
Despite the polish on screen, this was a scrappy production by design. Vendors and cinematographer Franz Lustig shot the film handheld in 16 days. Some sources cite 17 days. Either way, this is an extraordinarily tight shoot for a film with this level of craft. Vendors himself noted that his 23rd feature was produced swiftly and on a very low budget. Casting also moved fast. Vendors has said he imagined Hirayama in his head and cast Koji Yakusho within about 2 weeks of conceiving the character. Yakusho reportedly prepared for the role by working alongside real Tokyo toilet project janitors, hands-on research to get the physical rhythms of the job right. Vendors has cited Japanese director Yasuhiro Ozu as a touchdown for the film's minimalist contemplative style, fitting given Ozu's own reputation for stillness and domestic ritual. Also toilet humor. I mean, if you've seen Good Morning, like there's a lot of farting and toilet humor.
That's true.
Not enough farting in this movie. I will say I don't have a lot of negative things about this movie, but could have been more farts.
More farts.
No poop, really. There's zero poop in a movie about cleaning toilets.
It's all pee. It's a pee. It's
I don't
pee
know if he
propaganda.
did.
He does such a good
And-
job cleaning. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, he like shows up the next day and like he cleaned so well the day before that everything else just like bounces off of it, you know.
The film's soundtrack leans heavily on 70s and 80s rock and soul from Hirayama's cassette collection. Lou Reed's Perfect Day gives the film its title and features prominently alongside tracks from Patti Smith, Van Morrison, The Kinks, and Nina Simone. Hirayama's photography of komorebi, the Japanese term for dappled sunlight filtering through leaves, is a recurring visual and thematic anchor throughout the film. The Tokyo Toilet Project itself brings together 17 public toilets in Shibuya, created by architects and designers over roughly 6 years, commissioned by the Nippon Foundation as a symbol of Japan's hospitality culture. The toilets aren't just backdrops, they're essentially co stars, each with its own distinct architectural identity.
So does he name each of the 7, like, are all the toilets he cleans in this movie the 17?
Yes, so. Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know if
Like-
like 17 different toilets in this movie though.
Yeah, well, there's the
Yeah.
one where he has to, like, clean a bunch because his coworker quit. Maybe
Yeah.
that's how they, like, crammed them all in.
Yeah, we can talk about that. That guy, like, sucks.
Yeah.
He really does.
Man, when he's about to sell those, cassette tapes.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
God. Unforgivable.
Yeah. All to impress his hot girlfriend who's not interested in him
Yeah.
at all.
He doesn't deserve her.
No, she's cool. She's like Patty Smith slaps.
She's really cool. Yeah.
So yeah, Michael, I'm curious to hear from you first since Alison and I have both seen this a couple times
Mhm.
now. So this was your first time.
Yeah, I mean, it was on my radar because I'd heard folks like y'all talk about it, and it was basically as described. I had heard, oh, it's about like a dude kind of having like almost like a contemplative practice out of like his routines involving cleaning toilets and going to work and stuff. And I mean, the movie delivers on that. I was joking beforehand.
Gives you contemplative toilet cleans.
Truly, yeah, and I mean, like, I think, yeah, I don't know, like, I've never cleaned a toilet for a living, but I imagine that's not a typical, response to that job, but, I have done other jobs where you can kind of get in a kinda zone, like a contemplative zone, and so I kind of, uh connected to that. I was joking beforehand that like I after I saw the title, I was like, I wonder, wouldn't it be cool if Lou Reed's song played in this movie? And then it plays twice, hence the plural title. Um, and so that was cool. I also uh felt like while I was watching it, it felt like a maybe a purer form. I don't know. I have to go back and watch this movie. I haven't seen it in a long time, but it felt like maybe a purer form of the Jim Jarmusch movie Patterson,
Yes.
which I think like has a lot of the same rhythms and a lot of the same themes, but is maybe a bit shaggier than
talkier.
I can't. Well, he's
Yeah.
also a poet. He's like writing poems, so like you hear his poems. Whereas like this dude's life meaning, or at least like what presents as his life meaning, is the silence. And I think that's an interesting contrast. But
God, I love Patterson though too.
Patterson is a great movie. I think I haven't seen it since it came out, but it was good when it came out. But anyway, it wasn't a surprising movie, but I didn't need it to be surprising. It was really nice just to turn it on and you kind of let it wash over you.
It really announces what it is in like the first scene. It just kind of stays that the entire
Yeah,
time,
I am glad that it has some complications later on, like the scene when his sister comes in and we get like a hint at his relationship with his father and things like that is good, and I am glad it doesn't overplay it either. That one scene, well, it reminds me honestly in some regards of the Straight Story, in the sense of it is really just about the rhythms, but every once in a while you get these like glimpses of like a much wider world out there, or a much wider like history that is burble like gurgling under the surface of the film in a way that you can't you can't reach for and grab, but is kind of there in the texture of the film. You get those like, dream sequences too that are like black and white, like double exposures or something like that, with the leaf, like the leaf patterns, and then like people's faces or forms of bodies or things like that. And I think the movie is for the best in kind of leaving that stuff mostly opaque. Because I wouldn't really like it to be, oh, we find out that his father abused him and he's silent because of a Maya Angelou situation, sort of thing, like that would be kind of deflating.
Right.
I like that it just kind of is what it is, and we get a few wrinkles along the way, but it mostly is about this process.
Mhm.
Him and his, I think those they call them in the plot line, like, disturbances, though. I'm glad to your point, I'm glad that they have those just because they kinda add a little bit of new wrinkles to you kind of like the repetitiveness and the ritual and the kind of what he does every day. But also you like how kind of the wrinkles that people bring. Like I mentioned, the coworker who is just very like, he initially comes in late. He's kind of like, well, why are you like taking this so seriously?
Mhm.
He's at one point like washing with one hand and like watching his phone with the other one. You could see
Right.
Hirayama just kind of look at him and move, and kinda stare at him for a minute and then move on. Um, but then you also have, like, when his niece comes, and that's really sweet, you could see, like, he's kind of like this, almost like a hermit uncle who, maybe she kind of remembers and has heard stories about, but really doesn't have a full picture and just kind of holds this reverence about him, um, that's really nice. You also have, like, has a moment with, the girlfriend of the coworker who's really into Patti Smith. Everybody is always kind of having, something going on in their lives, and like you said, like, it's never it's referenced to, but it's never like, "Let's just, like, jump fully into this." Um, but I think each of those moments are, like, given such grace and handled
Mhm.
so nicely that they're just kind of like, these kind of run-ins that you have, even, like, he stops at this specific restaurant, like, during the week, and he gets, like, a beer or water and, like, a dish, and, like, the guy kinda says the same thing each time. He goes into
Mhm.
specific sushi spot, just, um I don't know. It's just, it's these kind of common occurrences that you kind of run into that,
Mhm.
aren't these massive revelations of life, but just,
No.
people that you come in contact with.
I think
And
also it's nice that those allow us to see slightly different sides of this man, because I think there would be a
Mhm.
way that this movie could potentially be glorification sounds like the wrong word, but like a kind of Pollyanna-ish look at like, "Oh,
Mhm.
this guy you can just find happiness if you set your mind to it," sort of thing, and I think that this
Mhm.
movie avoids that because we get to see this guy react to different situations, and his reactions are not always the same. He's sad at times, he's frustrated at times, he has problems with
Mhm.
management and his coworker
Mhm.
at times, and
Mhm.
so we're this, like, purely just like, like, this movie's not Jean Dielman in the sense of the rhythms reveal a kind of, like, sense of, like a stifling oppression. Uh,
Right.
Instead, like, the rhythms are kind of created in concert with the friction around him, which I think
Mhm.
is interesting and allows it to be at once, like, a kind of peaceful movie while also not being a super like, it doesn't feel like a movie that is, like, unduly positive either, I guess.
I think that I might disagree a little bit there. Not that I think it's unduly positive, but that I do think the movie is presenting him entirely in a positive light. Like
Oh, no,
there
no,
are
yeah,
times where
him,
he gets
yes.
frustrated and it's not like he is above like having negative emotions or anything like that. But I do think the movie is showing all these interactions he has with people and all these different um kind of ways in which he occupies himself all kind of like show him demonstrating a type of grace and like the presenting him as like um I don't know, an example of how one might live their life and have every day be a perfect day and every moment be like this like beautiful meaningful moment that you're having with the world around you and in the way that like I think the Christian way of looking at it would be it's like almost a portrait of a saint, right? It's presenting this character as like a ideal to aspire to, like we should all want to, in kind of a virtue ethics sort of way, like aspire to be this guy, right?
Right. Well, what I meant
And
by that was
yeah.
not necessarily the depiction of the guy, but his scenario. Like it's not like a he's cleaning toilets, and he's alone. These are things that like are traditionally glossed as negative, but the movie wants us to see positives in them. But it's also not like a movie that
Mhm.
like warps our sense of like what is actually real or its connection to reality in order to create those
Sure.
positive feelings. That's all I
I
meant.
do think so that like his willingness to throw himself so wholeheartedly into a job like cleaning toilets and like have this like perfect sense of like cool peace in doing that every day is part of kind of the saintly portrait that's being painted here, where like he's humble, like he doesn't have like aspirations to be for to be. I just recently read The Second Sex by Simone de Beauvoir, and she talks about like certain people aspiring towards quote unquote seriousness, like wanting to be taken seriously by the world, wanting to, have more money, have more status, have more power, have more people respect you. And he wants essentially nothing. He's like, I am perfectly happy doing this like kind of repetitive, quiet, menial task that is also like for the good of the public. Like this is a public work. He's a public servant, essentially, right? Um, so there's this like again looking at it from a Christian perspective, like this very almost like Christ-like selflessness that you see depicted in the character. But I think that like looking at it through a Christian lens is not the ideal way to look at it because of course this is a Japanese film. It is like much more inspired by like Eastern religion and philosophy. um, have recently become fairly familiar with Taoism through reading the Tao Te Ching. I've read 3 different translations of the Tao Te Ching, and I'll try to avoid like yapping about it for too long right now. But like, there's a thing that happens in the Tao Te Ching. It's just like a book of poems. It's like 81 poems, and there's like this trope that comes up over and over and over again where they talk about the master, um, which is like the idealized version of living at harmony with nature, living at harmony with what they call the eternal Tao, this like source of life emanating from the universe. And like the master as described in the Tao Te Ching is essentially this character. I did grab a couple of quotes. um Poem 30 of the Tao Te Ching says, the master does his job and then stops. He understands that the universe is forever out of control and that trying to dominate events goes against the current of the Tao. Because he is content with himself, he doesn't need others' approval. Um, Poem 50 says, the master gives himself up to whatever the moment brings. He knows that he is going to die and he has nothing left to hold on to. And the last one I have is poem 29. It says, the master sees things as they are without trying to control them. She lets them go their own way and resides at the center of the circle. Um, so, like, I think this is a guy who is like kind of not like through any sort of like hard work or discipline, really, but is just kind of through a sense of like contentedness, like found a way to kind of stop aspiring in any particular way, stop wanting things, like simply he is capable of enjoying like every moment of life, right? Um, and I think that's definitely like a way that I like try to live or like hope that I am capable of living, just like finding joy and peace and happiness in every moment, regardless of like how hard that moment is, right? Um, and I think this movie like gives a really beautiful kind of like ideal to aspire towards,
He doesn't enjoy
Yeah.
every moment though. You know,
He
there's
doesn't
like
like
this
it when his coworker's a dick.
Yeah, well, yeah, he
Sure.
like, is really fresh. He's like, I will only do this once, i.e., like,
Yeah.
being forced to do two person's job. And then like also the scene with his sister, the last scene, well, I guess the only scene with his sister, but the last with his niece. Um, he seems quite broken by the end of that scene having to
Mhm.
confront his old, his the ghost from his past.
And he's sad, it's a sad interaction, but, like, ultimately,
Yeah.
he knows that he can't control the fate of this child, and he can't control the way that his sister views him. One thing that you were talking about earlier is, like, you get a sense of this, like, broader world around him, and, one of the things that, like, the niece popping into the story allows for is for him to kind of explain a little bit about his way of viewing the world and his lifestyle, and at one point, they're talking about how, like, it seems like I think the niece says, "It seems like you and your sister live in different worlds," and he says, like, within the world, there are many worlds. And like this is kind of the world that he has chosen, right?
Mhm.
A world that is, free of not free of conflict, but low drama, low stress. He is not, super like entangled in a lot of people's lives. He's just living kind of a life of contented solitude. He gets an adequate amount of joy from listening to cassettes on the way to work and reading William Faulkner novels in the evening and eating delicious street food, when he gets off work.
Yeah.
And, like, that's all that life has to be for it to be great, right?
Yeah, because you kinda get a little bit of an idea where I mean, she shows up and she has, like, a driver in a very nice car and
Mhm.
is very nicely dressed, like,
He's
you don't
serious.
know if, like yeah, you don't know if, like, if the family's of money or if she's just of money, yeah,
Mhm.
there's lots of money involved somewhere, and
Right.
she makes the remark of, "Oh, like, are you seriously cleaning toilets?" He
Mhm.
kinda just gives this, like, very sheepish, like, "Yes," where, maybe, of course, you don't get any answer, but maybe, like, that's what he's, in his way, kind of rebelling or running away from is maybe, part of they hint at something where he clearly doesn't have a good relationship with his father, and maybe, like, part of it was, money becoming this,
Yeah.
you know, North Star object
Right.
that drove everything, and so you see him like, the life he's living now is not necessarily a rejection of money, but money is not, the dictating every decision he's making.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can definitely imagine his father, like, pushing him to do something more, prestigious or lucrative, and him just like, "No, I just wanna chill."
Doesn't his sister, am I remembering right? Doesn't his sister kind of like, isn't she like, you really clean toilets, or is something like that where she's like
Yeah.
almost incredulous that that's
Mhm.
what he does, you know?
Also, it seems, like, ashamed too, that
Sure.
she
Yeah.
could have a
Yeah.
relative who would stoop so low, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah, and you hear a lot about, like, working culture in Japan and, like, the high demand and, like,
Right, right,
the pressures that are put on people to have this, like, shining career,
right.
um, so, um, great soundtrack.
Oh,
Really
yeah. So
good
good.
soundtrack.
Yeah.
Although, okay, so I want to throw this thought out into the world. It's more of like a curiosity because I don't know. And I say this liking the movie, so I'm not trying to be like, we got to find the wrong thing about the movie, but I am curious, not being Japanese, what this
Mhm.
movie feels like to a person who is familiar with Japan and Tokyo on like a more personal level. Because like when I hear about his production, a German guy comes in, basically paid by a tourist agency to depict
Yeah.
an idealized portrait of urban life. And I wonder,
Mhm.
there's kind of like an infamous thing that happens with American cinema where a European comes in and is like, I understand America and will make a
Sure.
movie about America. And it feels
And you get free billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri.
correct. Yeah. There's like
Yeah.
an offness
Or the
about it
or
where
the
they,
drama.
or the
Yeah.
drama, or like, and I mean, even some of these movies are good, but it's just clear that like, there's something off about how they understand, how they conceptualize America, and that they maybe they're
Mhm.
buying into like tropes about America. And like, there's a part of me that wonders if this movie is engaging some of that. I realize there's a Japanese co-writer, but it is like a person who is not from Japan or even lives in Japan and
It's
was
also
brought there.
literally an ad
It's
for
literally like an
America
ad.
that likes to yeah.
I am curious. I guess I'm just curious, and the thing that makes me most curious is with the exception of one song, he's listening to all Western music, and with the exception of one,
Mm,
he's reading all Western literature. And to me, it kind of
yeah.
feels like, oh, we have to make this guy accessible to the vendors,
That
or make
that
the guy accessible to the West.
that did the music and stuff didn't throw me as much. I mean, Japan's pretty westernized
That
and
is true.
American
Yeah.
culture is pretty prevalent there. So that
I also
just
think about have you read much Haruki Murakami,
I have
Michael?
not, no.
Well,
yeah.
definitely like one of the most famous Japanese authors, both here and in Japan. And
Mhm.
like his movies or his books are like full of references to
Right.
American pop culture. Like it seems kind of ubiquitous in some ways.
Yeah, I'm
Loves
aware of
the
that.
Beatles.
He loves the Beatles. Yeah.
Doesn't he have a book called Norwegian Wood or something?
He does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm aware
That's
of
a good
that,
one. I like Mortgage Wood. Yeah.
and I understand that it's plausible, but I guess what I'm saying is, what does it feel like if you're Japanese?
Sure. I mean, I bet those toilets aren't that clean.
I bet they're not that clean, and like,
No,
but
I have
also,
been to Japan and the streets are very clean. I gotta
yeah,
say.
I've been to
Respect.
public toilets in Europe that were fairly clean, so
Yeah.
I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility that like they're better than the United States. I guess I'm just wondering, like, to what extent is uh its depiction of this man and his environment, and even like the kind of, like you were mentioning, Allison, the kind of Eastern philosophy inflected like view of life.
Mhm.
To what degree does that feel like an authentic outgrowth of the setting itself? And to what degree is that, you're kind of like Western minded, like repackaging of like
Yeah.
Japan and Eastern mysticism and all that sort of stuff, which I think like is really often kind of notoriously repackaged for Western people as well.
Sure.
Uh,
Yeah,
I
I
have no
know.
I have no answer to that
Um,
because I have no
yeah.
access to that. But I am just curious. That was a thought that I had
Mhm.
watching this movie, and especially listening, like seeing him, like I don't know, like I can't imagine reading William Faulkner in translation.
Oh my
What must that
god,
be
yeah.
like?
Yeah.
Uh, that was part of. I was like, really, he's reading William Faulkner? I mean, good for him, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
How does that translate?
How
Yeah.
does that translate? And maybe it
Um,
translates awesomely. I mean, I'm sure there's a. I've read books in translation that are awesome. So
yeah.
anyway,
Um, yeah, I don't know. And I guess like, you know, not being Japanese, none of us can answer that question.
so I
I
was
will
saying, let's just
say
throw
that
it out
like
there as a curiosity.
one aspect of how it depicts Japan as a place that feels very true to my brief experience there was like he can just like turn a corner after like going to a convenience store and grabbing some food, he can just turn a corner and be in like the most beautiful zen garden. Like that is just a thing that is true about Japan, is or at least Tokyo, is like these like really bustling metropolitan areas are just kind of full of these little pockets of natural beauty and places that have been intentionally preserved, for you to be able to sit and just like look at the sunlight through the trees or whatever.
I love that motif, by the way, too, of him
Hmm.
with his like film camera taking pictures of like
Yeah.
sun dappled trees and stuff like that.
Hmm.
It's kind of like, if he had a phone and was posting it on
Right.
Instagram, it would be kind of like an unbearable, like,
No.
oh, this person, but like
He
the
makes
fact
it on
that,
a disposable camera and then puts it in a box and puts it in the closet.
yeah,
Um,
I love that.
there's also a visual
The
motif of
Instagram
him.
we need.
That's right. Everyone's Instagram should just be a pile of boxes in their closet. That's what it was like for a long time. But there's also this visual motif of him looking up into the sky. Like every morning when he wakes up, he walks outside, he opens the door, and he just like looks straight up at the sun. And there are lots of moments of him like just kind of glancing up and sort of like marveling at the beauty of nature. And this also makes me think about Taoism. I don't know if this how much of this is like me kind of like doing my own symbolic metaphorizing in my own head, and how much this is like suggested directly by Taoism. But like, the religion or the philosophy, whatever you want to call it, suggests that like there is a source of life that is kind of like emanating from the center of the universe that like all things must eventually come from, right? And that like the universe is continually kind of like flowing through with this life that is this like continuously emanating through it, right? And from our perspective as human beings on Earth, we partially feel that through the light of the sun, because the sun is kind of responsible for the thriving of all life on this planet. And the fact that he's like always looking up at the sun and in like a state of like contentedness and peace feels like potentially a intentional symbol to me.
Yeah. I like those, Vendor Vendors does a good job of, he mentions Ozu
Mhm.
as a influence. You know, one of Ozu's best traits is his pillow shots, those little
Yeah.
in-between shots from like action has taken place. There's a pillow shot that kind of like lets you breathe, and then the next scene takes place.
Mhm.
And that kind of works as like those little breaks in the action where
Right.
it's like you just kind of take a moment of rest
Mhm.
and look at something beautiful and then move on.
And that's the dude's life. He not only does he not use the phone while scrubbing toilets, like he doesn't have a podcast in his ears or anything like that. It doesn't seem like he really has one. He just like I don't know, has no does not have this like modern need that we've engineered for ourselves to like constantly be taking in some form of entertainment media in order to just like get through the day.
He does have a phone because
Yeah.
he calls the management at one point, but yeah,
Oh, he does.
he doesn't
Yep.
use it
Right.
except for those special occurrences.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah. He is like
Yeah.
truly living the analog lifestyle, and that like he does one thing at a time, right? Though he does listen to music while he's driving, but like he also just sits and listens to music and doesn't do anything. He just like lays his head on a pillow and listens to the music, and like sits and reads without any music playing too. Like he is able to um he has such like a strong command of his like sense of focus and is just
Must be
like
nice.
yeah, I mean in 2026 that's hard to come by. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think that's the stuff that I think, as I watch it, this is the third time that I've seen it. Those are like the moments that I really like is just this, you know, it's it's less like, oh, I want to like, shut down my whole life and like become like this guy and like clean toilets and etc. But it's more like at least cut into my screen time where I'm not having to like be on the phone or
Yeah.
be watching like a TV show or a movie or having YouTube on or
Mhm.
just be stimulated somehow, just kind of,
Right.
a lot of people talk about, one of the skills that we've lost is like the skill of boredom.
Yeah.
And this one, it's not necessarily that he's bored at times, but he's just able to like accept the stillness. And
Mhm.
that's the kind of thing that that's what I think a lot about is like moments like that. And yeah, I don't
Mhm.
know. I
Yeah.
I I I
And like
really I really
also sorry, you go ahead.
no, no, you go ahead.
I was gonna say like on that note, we also haven't really talked a whole lot about the fact that this is like a nearly silent character.
Mhm,
He's
mhm.
not completely silent. He
Well, the
has
coworker
conversations.
like jokes. He's like, I don't even know what his voice sounds like.
Exactly, yeah. And, like, when he needs to talk a lot, he will talk a lot, right? Like, when he calls his work because he doesn't have anybody to assist him that one day. Um, but
They were probably like, "We need to send somebody because 'cause I've never heard this guy talk.
Mhm.
He's pissed off right now."
But he also, like, if he can find a way to communicate something non-verbally, he does. Like, in the scene where the guy who works with him, like, takes his tapes to a record store, um rather than like at any point yelling at the guy, he just follows him and then like holds his hand out to say, "Give me the tapes. Those are my tapes," and that's all he needs to say. And like there is something to the kind of like spirituality element of that too. Like I've taken 2 silent retreats to Gethsemane Abbey in Kentucky, which is where the theologian Thomas Merton stayed for like 4 years. And he actually writes about Taoism a little bit. He wrote a book called The Way of Chung Tzu. But you know, at those retreats and in writing that I've read from Thomas Merton, he talks about like silence as being really the only way to experience God or any sort of like spiritual dimension of life. And like that feels like it's part of, and I like that none of this is ever like explicitly stated in the movie that this guy has like a spiritual practice, but it really seems to me that he does, and the silence feels like it's part of that to me.
It is like an intentional, because it's like it's one thing to do a retreat. It's another thing to have your entire life be like this. Because I am the kind of person who, if left to my own devices, I will do things that's actually not too dissimilar to this guy. Ride my bike around, read books, listen to music, not talk
Maybe
a
don't
lot.
talk to anybody. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't talk to anyone. But what I found is that, like, if that's allowed to go on too long, like, let's say my
Right.
family's out of town for a week, which has happened once or twice, I start to feel bad because I don't
Right.
actually have much of a drive to be around people, but it's it's not just like an easy life to live either. Like, it is
Yeah.
truly like a choice you have to make. And in terms of like making that healthy, that's even like a further choice that you have to make and like put in
Right.
very specific, practices in place. And so I think that, like, for me, I'm looking at this guy's life, and the as I'm watching it, like, I had to take a break in the middle of this movie to wipe my kid's butt at one point, which is like imitating art.
Really living the perfect day's life.
But, like, it's very easy as I'm, like, surrounded by people to be like, "Man, I just am watching this guy, I wanna be alone." But I think, like, what he is doing is not simply just, like, the absence of things. Like, it is a very
No.
truly, like, active, present, mindful,
Right.
decision to be this way, and it takes, I think, a true, discipline
Yeah.
to be the way that he is, because as I have found, if I just let myself be, like, alone all the time up to my own devices, it's
Right.
not like it doesn't feel nice for long.
And there is like a certain level of discipline, like mental discipline that is required to do something like what we see here. But it also doesn't come across as like a thing that he's like trying particularly hard to do. This is just kind of like his natural resting state. And Taoism would argue like the natural resting state of the universe is to just kind of be like at peace and at harmony. He's like kind of living at the pace of nature, right? Um, but easier said than done.
Yeah.
It does
We're
take
also seeing
discipline to
it.
actually get there.
Who knows how long he's been at this,
Yeah, we're seeing
know,
years and years into this.
seeing a
Yeah.
matured,
Mhm.
practiced.
He's the master. He
Yeah,
figures
he's
it
a
out.
master. Yeah,
Yes.
you don't just become a master
Right.
tomorrow.
You gotta fine tune that shit. Yeah, you can't
That's
just
right.
Right.
jump in.
Get those gains.
Get those gains. Get those
You got a
grind gains.
spirituality max.
That's right. Yeah. Been maxed your now.
Mindfulness maxing.
Oh my god. Don't do that.
I think we found the true way to repackage this for Westerners.
All right. Any final thoughts on Perfect Days?
Good movie. I know I was talking about the music earlier. I love the little like piano quiet version of Perfect Day that plays over the credits. Like
That's
that is,
beautiful.
I don't know if that was created for the film or if there's like that was already a thing that existed out in the world, but I think that was just such a nice like, well, so you have the Nina Simone at the end.
Oh my god.
yeah.
Which the final shot of this movie is great, by the way.
Yes. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so, like, you have this really like emotional. You see him kind of cycling through like a range of like facial expressions and feelings as Nina Simone plays in his car, and then it cuts to the credits, and then you just have this quiet like Perfect Day
Yeah.
playing like an instrumental version of Perfect Day playing, and I just love that as an ending. What a
Also,
nice
notably, Nina Simone's "Feeling Good," and also like the camera angle changes significantly. Like we never see him dead on, like the camera looking straight into his eyes until the last shot of the movie,
Yeah,
and it's
it is
just
very
held
strange.
there for almost the whole length of the song.
Yeah, yeah, great ending.
Perfect ending.
Yeah.
Perfect ending to Perfect Days.
Great movie. Thanks, Cam.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good pick, Cam. All right. As I try to, well, that'll wrap up this episode of Cinematary. You can find more at cinematary.com or Instagram at cinematary. We post stuff. Be sure to do that for the Toronto Film Festival, guys. We're doing no Twitter this year at TIFF. We're going full Instagram.
I didn't do it
Oh,
last
great.
year, and I'm so glad that I didn't. Because like 2 years
We're
ago,
not
I was
doing
on
it.
Twitter for TIFF, and like the amount of AI and bots I saw was infuriating. I don't want to subject myself to that ever again.
Yeah, so we're not doing that. We're saying no. It's so just follow us on Instagram.
Yeah. At Cinematary.
Yeah.
You should take a disposable
So
camera and take some pictures that we put in a box.
Yeah, no one will ever see them.
yeah, we'll take some pictures. We won't show you because it'll be in our box. But
I don't know if we'll keep getting press passes if we put our reviews just
If we
right
tie it into Perfect Days, though, can you imagine? Like, we're so cinephile that we've adopted this guy's lifestyle.
Therefore, we are no longer publishing film criticism.
I'm sure Tiff would be like, oh yeah, no, this is cool. This is what we were looking for.
Yes, you keep cover. That's fine.
But yeah, be looking for that. Our TIFF episode will come out probably later in September, following the festival, and then we'll probably be on hiatus for a little while as we work.
Yeah.
Um,
Enjoy the
but
free
thank you,
Cinematary while it lasts.
Yeah, but if you would like to enjoy Cinematary when we're not putting out free episodes, you should consider donating, being a patron. $5 a month at patreon.com/cinematary. Thank you to our patrons who got to pick movies for the series. Cam, Tyler Chandler, Ron Hayes, Nathan Swan, Michael's aunt and Michael's wife. Shout out. Teresa Marsafi, Tanner Huskins. Yeah, thank you so much for being patrons. Sam Shapiro, who didn't get to hear more about Full Contact. Sorry. All right. Until then. Yeah, that's your fault. Until then, thank you for listening, and we will see you after Toronto.